NXT Stand and Deliver has come and went. Their version of WrestleMania, coming in at around 2.5 hours. The question is, did this show stand and deliver? Did this show stand and fight? Did it pack a punch? Or was it a letdown? Well, we're going to find out. Overall, I actually thought it was an okay show. And an okay rating for me these days in the wrestling business in 2022 is a pretty good rating, to be fair. But we kicked off with a pre-show match. So it was Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai defeating Toxic Attraction, the champions, for the women's tag team titles. This was on the pre-show. It baffles me this match was taking place, how they got their title shots. But I guess I'm not going to judge the pay-per-view on that. It's not, that was decided on the weekly show. So, it is what it is. It was a fun, entertaining match. Didn't go too long. It looked like Toxic Attraction were about to win, and then Wendy Chu came out, caused a distraction, hit Geechee with her pillow, then threw like cola in her face, and JC James was left alone in the ring, and basically got beat up by Dakota Kai, and then powerbombed by Raquel Gonzalez. Toxic Attraction then lose their stranglehold on all the belts on NXT. And we have new tag team champions to kick off the pre-show. Then we moved on to the main show. Fatal 5-way ladder match for the NXT North American Championship. It was Cameron Grimes defeating Santos Escobar, Solo Sikoa, Grayson Waller, and the champion Carmelo Hayes. Cameron Grimes was probably the only guy in this match I thought had no chance of winning, and it turns out he won. So what do I know? Obviously not a lot. But yeah, it was alright. It was a ladder match. It is what it is. Some cool spots, but overall, it wasn't the greatest ladder match that I've ever seen. To me, there was no real variation. Everybody kind of was around the same height, same sort of size. I think this would have worked better if we had at least one big guy in there. We didn't really get that. We did have some big dude, Sanga, who's with Grayson Waller, but apart from that, not a lot. So it was an okay ladder match, but it was far from impressive. It was nowhere near one of the better ladder matches that I have seen. Then we moved on to Tony D'Angelo versus Tommaso Ciampa, and Tony D'Angelo arrived in a car, which was a pretty cool scene. I guess most of these guys arrived in a car, but it was like a fancy car. And you actually got to see him arrive in the arena, and it just looked cool, since he's supposed to be like this Italian mafia guy, and he just arrived with his partner AJ Galante. I'm guessing it's his partner, his business partner, his associate. Then he went out, he defeated Tommaso Ciampa, which I predicted, and then Ciampa at the end was confronted by Triple H, the game. And the game ended up hugging Tommaso Ciampa for a minute. I thought I was watching Brokeback Mountain, but it turns out this is Ciampa's last match on NXT. So does that mean he's leaving the company? Does that mean he's going to Raw or SmackDown? Probably means the latter. He'll probably end up on Raw or SmackDown. I can't see him doing anything on the main roster. Just the guy's too small. He doesn't have a look about him. He just looks like an indie guy, and he's in his 40s now. I'd be shocked if Tommaso Ciampa amounts to anything on the main roster. Then we move into the tag team triple threat match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. It was MSK defeating Imperium, the champions, and the Creed brothers. And I didn't think this was this great, to be honest. MSK defeating, I think it was Fabian Aichner in the ring. They did like a Hurricane Runner off the top rope into a power bomb. It is what it is. I'm not a big fan of any of these three teams, but I couldn't see past Imperium retaining. But again, it was a bit of a surprise that MSK won. I'm just glad the Creed brothers didn't win though, because the Creed brothers absolutely suck. Brutus and Julius Creed. What about Brutal? Should be Brutal Creed, because it's brutal watching them anyway. Got new tag team champions in MSK. Then we move on to the next match. It was Mandy Rose, the champion of NXT, facing Cora Jade, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray. And Mandy Rose surprisingly won. She retained her title. And I was expecting Mandy Rose to win, but I was also kind of thinking that Toxic Attraction would remain the champs. Once they lost the tag belts, I was thinking, does that make Mandy Rose vulnerable? Does that mean Mandy Rose got a better chance now of losing her belt? And it looked like at one point, at several points, she could lose the belt, because obviously you don't need to be pin to lose your championship. And Cora Jade, Io Shirai and Kay Lee Ray all came close to winning, but in the end, Io Shirai hit a big moonsault on Cora Jade, was about to go for the cover, but Mandy Rose running in, hits the knee, then hopped on top of Io Shirai and got the 1-2-3 to retain her women's championship. A lot of people are not happy about this. I know people are just never going to like Mandy Rose. You know, it is what it is. She's not an indie darling. She didn't come from, you know, fucking bingo halls and shit like this. She was a fitness model that came in and started wrestling, you know, when she was like in her 20s. So she's late to the game, so therefore people are always going to hate her, even though, you know, she's got one of the best characters going. She's like a decent promo. She's fucking mega hot, you know. She's got all that good stuff going for her, but because she hasn't been wrestling since she was 7 years old, people are going to, you know, just hate Mandy Rose and never give her credit, which is kind of sad. Then we moved on to the next match. Speaking of sad, LA Knight, a guy that should be a star, a guy that is a star, a guy that you just look at him and this guy's got potential. This guy should be main event in Raw and SmackDown. I mean, this guy should be the next challenger for, you know, Roman Reigns, or this guy should be facing Bobby Lashley on Raw, mixing it up with Brock Lesnar. But instead, he loses to Fat Man, not Walter. Gunther, doesn't really matter. Both names are shite. I mean, Walter's a crap name as well. I don't know why people are making it as if Walter is a great name for a wrestler, when it's just not. It's bland and boring, and that sums up this guy, you know, perfectly. Just bland, boring, black trunks, overweight, flabby, very boring style. Mat wrestling style. No one fucking gives a shit about this. And Gunther, I'm not going to say he buried LA Knight, but the win was kind of convincing. Towards the end of the match, LA Knight's going to the top rope. He gets chopped. He falls onto the turnbuckle, and then Gunther just unleashes a series of moves and puts away LA Knight. So, yeah, Gunther getting a decisive win here over LA Knight, and I don't really think we'll see a rematch. That's probably going to be the end of Gunther and LA Knight. Gunther might be moving on now to other things, and in the main event, we all expected Braun Breaker to win this match, especially when he came out with a chainsaw. He was cutting down NXT signs. We thought he was going to cut down Dolph Ziggler, and even though he nearly cut him in half with a few spears during the match, Dolph Ziggler surprisingly won the main event to retain the NXT Championship, defeating Braun Breaker in the end by exposing the middle turnbuckle, causing Braun Breaker to hit his head on the exposed steel. Then he hit him for like the 4th time with a super kick, and that was enough to defeat Braun Breaker. Albeit, he had a shitload of help from Robert Roode causing distractions. We had Braun Breaker running senton over the top rope to the outside on both Ziggler and Robert Roode. I thought they might have had the Steiner brothers come out to even up the odds, since Robert Roode was out there, and it was essentially 2-on-1, or at least Robert Roode was interfering with the match and causing a distraction. I thought we might have got the Steiners come out and, you know, just even up the odds and take care of Roode, even if Scott Steiner is not medically cleared or whatever. I mean, surely Rick could have came out and had a standoff with Roode, and that could have evened up the playing field, but it didn't happen, and in the end, it was Dolph Ziggler who beat Braun Breaker, and that ended off the main event. That was a great match. It was the best match of the night by far, in my opinion. It was pretty much 50-50. Did not know which way it was going to go. It was exciting, and I'm actually, even though I wanted Braun Breaker to win, it was kind of refreshing that Ziggler won, because I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Braun Breaker would win. So it was a nice surprise to see Ziggler actually come out with the win, even though I didn't want him to win. But there you go, Dolph Ziggler remains the NXT champion. Is he going to have a long run with the belt? Is that him on NXT for the foreseeable future? Or maybe are they going to have one more match? Is Braun Breaker going to get called up to the main roster, guys? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, this was it wasn't a bad show. Obviously, it pales in comparison to last night's Hall of Fame. Last night's Hall of Fame will not be beaten this weekend. I'd be shocked if anything happens this weekend that was better than last night. But this was decent. It was alright. The main event was great. I liked the main event. I enjoyed the Fatal 4-Ways women's match. The two best matches for me of the night. I'm going to give this... I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Okay, yeah, I'll give it a 4 out of 10, guys. Why not? Plus, the commentary I thought throughout the night was great. I really like Wade Barrett and this Vic Joseph guy. I don't know if they're better than McAfee and Cole, but they are certainly better than Raw. They are 10 million times better than Raw. There's just so many funny things going, and then throughout the night we had a load of segments. You know, we had who's the sexiest cowboy between Dexter and whatever that other guy's called, Indy Hartwell's best friend's fucking boyfriend. Can't remember his name, but there was loads of like funny skits, and he also had that Darlow guy with his big madman, and he's basically making threats and all that. And there was so many good segments throughout the show, guys, and I really enjoyed the two main title matches. So yeah, you know, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Over the reason why I'm only giving it a 4 out of 10, I thought the rest of the card was weak. The ladder match for me didn't really do much. The tag match, tag team title match didn't do much for me either, and neither did Tony D'Angelo and Ciampa. So yeah, no, that's what it is. I think the last 3 matches were definitely the strongest on the show. And I liked some of the segments. So 4 out of 10, guys. That's it. Let us know what you thought down below. But that's it for this NXT Stand and Deliver 2022. Braun Breaker is no longer the champion. Dolph Ziggler remains. And Mandy Rose is still the queen of NXT. But until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.